Hello and welcome to Precontation Points Video Snack. I read books so that you don't have to. I'm continuing my read-through of Vivid by Ashley Bustamante. Not the first video, go check out the others. Links are posted below. Chapter 4. Ava has another dream about Elm. In it, she faces off against him and asks who he is. He says that he doesn't know, but then says that it doesn't matter since she won't remember in the morning anyway. It was morning, and I do remember vividly. Both a pun and a title drop. As she wakes up, she tells the readers that this is the 5th night in a row that she's dreamed about Elm. However, her dreams about Elm are also starting to impact her schoolwork since they're the only thing she can think about. She's interrupted from her thoughts about last night's dream by Sarah asking about some book for a school essay. As Ava helps her to find it on the shelf, Ava finds a book about dreams right next to the book for Sarah. As soon as Sarah leaves, Ava grabs the book, but as she flips through it, she realizes that she has no idea what she's even searching for and goes to look at the library catalog. However, as she flips through topics such as lucid dreaming and dream interpretation, she's like, none of these are what I'm looking for. Sarah interrupts her search to tell her that class is over. Ava was so distracted by this that time slipped away from her. She puts the book away, but vows to revisit the topic again later. A month now. A month straight of dreaming about Elm. I'm past pretending this is normal. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that she hasn't told an adult about this. Look, I'm not saying that this could have been solved in less than 5 minutes, but Ava knows how dangerous that the entire situation is, yet she says nothing. Thanks to her frequent dreams about him, Elm's appearance is permanently etched into her memory, which, yes, this is the correct time to use that. I'd also like to point out that those benefactors from the second chapter haven't been mentioned once since assembly, which frustrates me even more. She also tells the reader that Elm has a cane with multiple yellow gems in it. She thinks that it's odd since whenever gems are found, they're usually set aside to either give to the students or to power objects, and only the wealthy can afford multiple gems. Although I'd also like to offer a counter-argument. Since yellow is literally illegal, there's likely a stash of yellow gems that were found and probably squirreled away somewhere. But Elm has so many gems that even with the yellow band, he would have enough power for a long time. In this dream, Elm turns to go as he always does, but then he turns and floats over to Ava where he starts to examine her closely. Ava reminds herself that this is nothing but a dream, a delusion that she's invented inside of her own head, and examines him back. He turns to go get it, and Ava reaches for him and seems to grab onto him, much to Elm's shock, but then there's a puff of smoke and Ava is alone. Chapter 5. Ava wakes up disoriented from the dream. She wonders why her weird obsession is plaguing her with dreams like this, and wonders if an obsession could make something in a dream feel so tangible as the feeling of his coat under her fingers. She wonders briefly if she should do something, but then decides to leave the finding and capture of Elm in the hands of the benefactors. That prompts Ava to finally seek her mentor out. But once in Selena's office, she doesn't really know where to start, so she asks about yellow magic. She goes on after Celine's question that she has done her research, but there isn't much about it. There are literally entire sections of books for blue and red magic, but barely a paragraph here and there about yellow. There's no need for us to have more information about yellow magic. It is forbidden. That should be enough for you. Yeah, well, what Hitler did was ungodly, but yet we still need to talk about World War II. Just because something is bad doesn't mean that we should ignore it. Wait, what am I saying? This is a young adult novel, and this is an adult talking down to the protagonist. Obviously, she's going to be dumb and condescending. Ava insists that knowing more info could help capture him faster, but Celine is clearly fed up, not just with Ava, but the entire school's sudden obsession with yellow magic and Elm, says that it's Ava's job to do the entire if you see something, say something, and to leave the actual legwork to the benefactors. Your parents died defending you and the people of Magnus from the likes of Elm, or have you forgotten that? Why do you feel the need to meddle in something they gave their lives to protect you from? Nothing quite like guilt-tripping the girl into obedience. Celine is well-meaning but insanely toxic, and you cannot change my mind. Ava argues that she wants to become a benefactor, though, so wouldn't it be good to tell her these things? Celine says that Ava would not honor her parents if she were to die just because she was being foolish. And again, well-meaning, but she goes about it in just the worst way possible. However, this does work and Ava feels the appropriate amount of guilt. Celine continues on and says that Ava will learn those things when the time is right. Celine says that she knows Ava has been looking up a lot of dream stuff from the library recently and asks if she's okay. Ava is kind of upset that Celine has been spying on her, but Celine says that all the teachers have been reporting that Ava has seemed distracted recently. Ava, you would tell me if something strange were happening to you, wouldn't you? Of course. Why am I holding back? I can trust Celine. Can't I? I have always been open with her, but now I hesitate. Ava gives some paper-thin excuse about finding dreams interesting before Celine dismisses her. That night, Ava has a dream where she's walking through the halls of the school and everybody won't stop staring at her. She looks down and finds that she isn't wearing her red scroll uniform, but a yellow one. Celine calls her a traitor. She holds up Elm's wanted poster, but the image shifts and the face on the poster does not belong to Elm. It is soft-featured and round, sporting wide blue eyes and long copper hair. It's me. Longtime fans of mine know that one of the worst things in first-person point of view books is standing in front of the mirror to describe themselves, so good job. This is actually well done. Ava wakes up, and although she's freaked out from the nightmare, she's a little relieved because she didn't dream about Elm for the first time in a month, and she thinks that maybe now she can start to put this behind her. After that, the dreams about Elm really do stop, but rather than being relieved, Ava just feels disappointed, like she somehow could have stopped Elm. Logically, she feels like she's projecting the stranger she saw in the woods as the wanted man, but she can't help it. She tries everything to have another dream about Elm, but finds that she can't. She also feels like she's going insane and would like to be kept busy, but nothing is working. An assignment she was given was to organize and clean the classrooms, which she doesn't exactly find mind-consuming enough to distract her from Elm. She goes into one of the rooms in an unused wing of the school one day and starts to set up to clean the room. A lot of what follows is tedious and could have and should have been completely cut without losing any actual plot. As she's cleaning, she accidentally knocks down a book. Since it's so old, some of the pages fall out. She notes that she has the same book in her room, but this edition is much older than her copy. She starts to read one of the pages, curious as to how much has changed from edition to edition. In the beginning, the area known as the Bermuda Triangle opened up and formed what is now known as the Land of Magnus. Non-magical people feared the magical people, but you can only perform magic on other magic people, so they were able to co-live peacefully. But magic would begin to fade if people left Magnus for too long, so they would only leave for a short amount of time. However, this gives Ava pause because in her own copy it says that people cannot leave Magnus at all, because there's literally nothing outside of it. Just then, the burnt-out light in the room turns on and the window Ava had propped open slams shut. She tries to tell herself that it was the wind, but that doesn't explain why the light suddenly turned on. An alarm goes off and Ava thinks that this must mean that Elm is near. She wants to see him, so she goes racing off. There are other students mobbing around the halls, but she avoids them since Elm wouldn't go near. As she goes, she notes that the supply closet door is cracked, which she finds odd. It's always locked whenever not in use. Inside, as you might have guessed, is Elm. He's photocopying yellow flowers and adds them to the printout of the part of the photocopier so that the new ones will make an even bigger sheet of yellow. Ava knows that she should run and get a benefactor or literally any adult, but the only thing stopping her is the story's desire to not end right here and now, so she steps inside and closes the door. Elm notes that she's there but continues his copying. She finally asks what he's doing. His response is weird, to say the least. He asks that she can see him and says that she must be strange that she can. He goes on to explain that the reason why the alarm is going off is because he let somebody view him briefly. People would be so distracted searching for him that they'll overlook the most obvious. He goes to leave and asks if she's Ava. He tells her that everybody knows Ava at the school, which implies that he's been hanging around invisible for a long time now. He then tells her that she's going to help him carry boxes of photocopied flowers from the room. When asked why he thinks that she'll help him, he pointedly tells her that she wouldn't have come into the room if she hadn't wanted anything from him. Ava decides that she should just go along with what he wants out of fear what he might do to her with his yellow magic. He asks for her height and weight and then puts her into a bright yellow frilly dress. Ava's naturally freaked out over the entire thing, but Elm assures her that while she's wearing it, he'll be the only one who can see her. He also tells her that if he wanted to control her mind, he wouldn't have bothered with the production. They leave the room, although Ava is still skeptical over the entire thing. In order to prove to her that nobody can see or hear them, Em taps a couple of nearby students with his cane. They fall to the ground and seem confused as they get back up, but are unharmed. But Ava is still anxious as they continue along. She's a good girl, really. She's never been in trouble once in her entire life. They get to a monument of the school and Elm destroys it. Elm then picks Ava up, box of copied flowers and all, and runs from the school. He only stops once they're in the forest. Ava insists that he take the dress back and put her uniform in its rightful place. He insists that it would be easier for her to get back without question if she was still invisible, and once in her room she could change, her uniform would be where it's supposed to have been. He then uses magic to command a wild horse into the area, scoops up his flowers, and tells Ava that this is only goodbye for now before he leaves. Chapter 6. Ava walks back to the school, still waiting for something bad to happen. As she goes, she chides herself for intentionally aiding and abetting a known criminal, going against everything she's been working towards. As she goes further into the school, she sees the monument that Elm had destroyed has somehow been fixed. There are benefactors standing around and questioning witnesses who swear up and down that they saw it break. This confuses Ava even more, since why would Elm use an illusion to make people think he destroyed it? She goes to her room where she thinks that she wants to see Elm again. She falls asleep on the floor and doesn't wake up until morning. When she does rise, she panics because her first class started several minutes ago. She quickly takes the yellow dress off, and exactly as Elm had said, her uniform appears as it should be. She goes to class where everybody stares at her. Ava quickly realizes that her red pendant has been replaced with the yellow one, and she runs off. In her room, she struggles to get it off, but literally nothing can get it off. She screams out that she hates Elm, and the yellow dress appears on her again, just in time as the benefactors and Celine show up. Celine looks panicked and orders that they fan out to search for Ava elsewhere before it's too late. Ava knows that she has to find Elm, and the only clue she has where he might be is the forest, so she runs out there and goes off in the direction he'd ridden off in yesterday, but then she gets hopelessly lost, because of course she does. Naturally, Elm shows up at this point. He tells her that the yellow necklace is the trigger for the dress, and it would be easier than letting it just sit in her room. He takes the necklace off from her and goes on to explain that the benefactors made it so he couldn't talk to any of the students. He had to make one of them come to him first, and leaving the dress and necklace with Ava was a good way to ensure that she'd come seek him out again. He transforms the yellow pendant into a locket, a silver one, and tells her how to activate the dress. He also returns her red pendant, but Ava is reluctant to return since she knows she's going to be in deep trouble after showing up in class wearing yellow. He tells her that he'll take care of things and encourages her to go back to the school. Ava decides that between facing the benefactors and being on the run forever, she'd take her chances by returning to the school. He tells her not to mention him. Ava asks why he insists on calling her Miss Ava instead of just Ava. He says that she'll be called Ava once she's a benefactor, but says so in such a negative way that makes her ask what he has against her joining. He says that they don't have her best interest in mind. Yes, raised you to be an academy robot, he says dryly. Tell me, did she encourage you to have friends, to have a life? He ain't wrong. I've been saying this entire time that while Celine's intentions are well-meaning, the way she goes about it is awful and mildly abusive. Even as Ava tries to defend Celine's and her own actions and behavior, even Ava's like, wow, how pathetic am I? I don't have any friends. She also acknowledges that she has no interests outside of her studies. Elm has to put her on the correct path so that she doesn't mindlessly wander lost through the forest. Ava returns to the school where she contemplates what she should say to the benefactor. She goes to her room where she takes the dress off and then takes the locket off. She stuffs it into a drawer and decides that maybe she should put all of this business behind her before he ruins her life further. She wanted to go to the benefactors, but the bell for the end of class goes off, and as she's walking along the halls, worried about the rumors that must have already spread, somebody screams out, "Yellow!" But they aren't looking at her, but rather something outside. Elma has put the yellow flowers he'd made all over the lawn. Ava's angry because she thinks that people will link her yellow necklace back to the flowers. Celine grabs her as she's leaving to follow an emergency announcement. In her office, Celine asks Ava if she's seen Elm. Ava hesitates, but then decides that there's no way Elm is actually going to help her, so she comes clean about running into Elm right after he'd escaped imprisonment. However, as Celine is chewing her out, her words suddenly fade and she goes completely still. Ava looks out the window and sees the yellow fading from the flowers. A second later, Celine starts talking, but she's instead chiding Ava about staying up too late and accidentally missing her morning class. When Ava gets back to her room, she finds a note from Elm on her mirror in lipstick telling her to clean up the flowers. And he'd also taped up his wanted poster she'd had, but had drawn hearts all over it. She's angry and embarrassed over the entire thing, but knows he's right. If she doesn't clean up his mess, the benefactors will know he'd been there. She tries to get the locket, but gets even more angry when she realizes he'd dug through her drawer. She cleans up the flowers before second period ends, but has to go into the forest to dispose of them. Once back in her room, she spends a long time cleaning up the lipstick. It makes her angry because he'd clearly spent enough time poking around in her room to find the locket, and he could have used a pen. Thanks for listening to my chapter-by-chapter review of Vivid. I'm going to post a new video every day until I run out of chapters. Once I finish with Vivid, I promise to get back to the regular Monday update schedule and resume Fury. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book, Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main snarks, you can find even more snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just 1 cent per word. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and now 2 full-length novels. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do that just so you can know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you tomorrow, guys! But has so many gems that even with the yellow band, he would have been... But has so many